I'm Reed with PEMF Global Health, and we're here today with Elliot Williams to chat a little bit about biohacking. And Elliot, why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, my name's Elliot Williams. I am the Director of Functional Performance for a professional sports organization here in California.
My idea here is that we'll just kind of chat about um, biohacking, ways of hacking physiological processes in the body, and
Okay.
as an expert in your industry, kind of, what your thoughts are on some of these things, and different ways you might apply them, and I'll try and kind of bring it back around to PEMF on each subject, and
Cool.
and just go from there.
Okay. That sounds good,
Yeah.
man. I love to use the term biomimicry because I feel
Okay.
like hacking is uh, no disrespect, but that's where Dave Asprey came from. And
Yeah.
and throwing stuff at the wall, and I'm going to test everything on my body, and I'm going to figure out specifically what's going to work for me, and as opposed to looking at the both sides of the coin and the research, right? There's
Yeah.
what works well for you might not work well for somebody else, and what works
That's
well
it.
for you also has other very significant effects. So
Yeah.
I don't love the biohacking. I love the biomimicry because in reality, what iMRS Prime and what the PEMF is doing is it's mimicking the messages that the cells or the brain are sending to your body.
Yeah.
So just it it's almost like less invasive stem cell if you think about it,
Yep.
because uh, it's instead of doing a localized injection, we're hitting the whole entire organism as a unit, and it's having an impact on the metabolic process,
Yeah.
which, and I think in most medical and professional performance-based terms, if you have a high metabolic rate, chances are you're a very high level athlete or a high level functioning individual,
Yeah.
right? So that can be from a cellular standpoint, a digestive standpoint, but it all has to work in congruence with each other. You can't just have a daily and regular bowel movement and consider yourself having good metabolism. It's got to be, how are you turning energy over,
Yeah. Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Everybody
absolutely.
everybody wants to sit on the fact that, well, my sleep expert said I have to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Well, in the real world, that's probably not realistic as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So how
Not
max
with responsibilities, that's for
yeah,
sure. Yeah. Or kids.
exactly. So how can we maximize what time we're going to spend in bed? Because it's not about the amount of time, in my opinion. It's about the amount of quality time within that set period. Um, so I think the PEMF read and the iMRS, man, I think it speaks to 2 to 3 levels for me, and
Yep.
it helps maintain metabolic process at a cellular level. And for me, it really helps me keep a circadian rhythm, even though there's not
Absolutely.
a light base to it, right? For the mat and the spot when we're treating certain parts, but there is such a there's such an impact on the nervous system that it immediately it's just telling every portion, the mind, body, and spirit, to sync up, and that it's time to energize, activate, and get ready for the day to perform, or it's time to tear it down, file the day away, let it go, and move on for sleep. That's
Yeah.
what.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the circadian rhythm part there, it was 2017, there was three doctors who won the Nobel Prize for their research on circadian rhythms. And in their research, they even talked about how even in environments that are absent of light, we still, humans will still maintain a circadian rhythm. So it's not always, the sun coming up or going down that dictates our circadian rhythm, that there's, this unseen energy that is really, that's what's dictating, our circadian rhythm and helping activate those healthy physiological processes.
Totally.
And, it's electromagnetic fields, right? So that's exactly why the iMRS Prime has that built-in organ clock to help, kind of activate the physiological processes that are meant to be active at the particular time of day when it's used. So, it goes a little bit beyond what some other PEMF systems on the market are offering. So
Yeah.
that's definitely, and that's one of the first things we hear back from a lot of our customers. And when we were running our clinic, from a lot of the people who would come through the clinic and use it, was improved sleep was one of the first things that we always heard back.
Yeah.
And, chatting with Wolfgang, who's the CEO of Swiss Bionic Solutions, the creator of this product, the very first PEMF system that he tried was actually called the Sleep Machine, and they didn't totally know everything that it was doing at the time, but they knew that everybody that used it slept better. So that's kind of how they marketed it. So,
Yeah.
but I think diet is definitely a huge one. I'm, I'm married to a holistic nutritionist, so I probably eat healthier than I even want to most of the time. But that's the fuel for the chemical processes in the body. So obviously, clean eating is a huge thing for biohacking. It's probably less talked about than a lot of the other modalities, but be it PEMF or infrared or red light or any of those, because it's readily available to everyone. You don't have
Yeah.
to own anything to eat healthy, but the those electrochemical processes in the body require the chemistry, but also the electricity on the other side of it. So that's kind of what PEMF is also bringing to the table in that process, because you can't have one without the other, right? PEMF isn't going to create anything in your body that's not already there. It just provides the energy for improving those processes and helping the body utilize whether it's oxygen or minerals or nutrients from healthy eating. But that's definitely a big one, clean eating. And I'm sure that's a big part for you as well.
It is. It is. I think as we get older, we get smarter, right? And or at least we like to think.
Yeah.
I guess it's knowledge-based experience than
Yeah.
knowledge-based experience or evidence-based experience-based evidence. Um, but I think you're right. I think the key to, if we want to call it the holistic lifestyle, the holistic living lifestyle of just being right, quality of life, right? Motion is the lotion,
Yep.
right? Quality food is a necessity. It has purpose. Movement has purpose. And if we are the locomotive and food is the fuel, and we're expecting good quality movements or the cognitive ability to have purpose and intent with our movements, then we sure as hell better have the right fuel provided.
Yeah.
And I think you can go deep, right? You can go biomarker route, you can go the food allergen route, you can do all of these things, or you can just eat what's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is going to be different for everyone too.
It is.
It's one, when something works for one person and they want to shout it from the rooftops that, this is what everyone should do. It's not always the case, particularly with diet, whether you're depending on what your ethnicity is, or all these different things that can go into it.
Yeah.
But everyone is slightly different, and we do, going back to PEMF is kind of like that as well. We get similar initial feedback from customers that are less pain, better sleep, more energy, but the long-term benefits are going to be directly related to wherever you have cells that are in a state of imbalance or inflammation that's manifested in your body. And that's different for every single person. So the long-term benefits, particularly with PEMF, are going to be unique to that individual and what's going on in their body.
Yeah. That's the one thing I love. I've really enjoyed about the iMRS too, is that the polarity and working, not as heavy to the head and working a little bit heavier down below from the waist, because at the end of the day, we do sit for the majority of our lives, right?
Yeah.
We unfortunately work to live, or do we live to work? Live to work here in America, I'd say
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
But it's really important to have more of an impact on that lower half, because that's where your lymphatic system sits. That's where the waste, the toxin sits, right?
Yep.
And we sit, if we're talking motion movement, the more we sit, that hip and pelvis starts to kind of shift, kind of shortens that psoas. As soon as that psoas shortens, that changes how your hips function. That's in turn going to change your gait pattern, which in turn is going to tighten your ankle, which in turn is going to create more lymphatic buildup,
Yeah.
right? So the the flush mechanism with the iMRS is pretty unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't, for me personally, I don't sell it right to athletes as such. I don't really even talk about it, but we should, because there is an absolute, whether it's the fascia, whether it's the fatigue, whether it's the lactic acid, whether it's the lack of nitric oxygen or nitric oxide or oxygen flowing through the tissue, whatever it is, it's at an imbalance. It's at a state of fatigue. It's at a state of panic. And what I've found after hard days of training, and what we really try and promote for our guys, for some of our players, is get on it. All you have to do is sit in a chair.
Yeah.
That's
It doesn't get any more non-invasive than that. Sit here or lie here or
exactly. And it's like, well, so what am I doing? Well, you're not doing anything. The machine's going to actually work for you. Well, what's the machine doing? Well, it's creating voltage to your cells, which are helping make that cell a little bit more permeable so that it can send messages
exactly.
from
Yep.
your brain tissue. And after a hard workout, that range of motion is decreased, that fatigue is set in, that lactic acid sits. And now we're thinking, man, I'm going to be so sore tomorrow. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. And it's not going to have a negative impact on your adaptation to training. It's
Yep.
not. Because you're less sore doesn't mean your muscle mass isn't going to improve. All that means is that we help the tissue create more of a two-sided glove, as opposed to it just holding on to one side.
Yeah.
Tissue's kind of sitting there, and now the oxygen, the nitric oxide, the blood can actually flow, and it can get the minerals and nutrients, like we were talking about before,
Yeah.
to our legs, which is such a huge deal. And the fact that it's not as intense from here up. Like I'm biologically, I'm sensitive.
Yeah.
I know what type of light is going to be helpful for me. I know what type of heat or cold and the temperatures that work for me. So I know, and I feel more safe knowing that a heavier polarization is not going to impact what's from here up, my heart and my head, my brain.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up heat there as well, which is another one of the great things with the iMRS Prime, particularly that you've got the addition of the infrared there, which again is going to help, promote the circulatory system and cardiovascular health. And after a hard workout, carry, as you say, all that the waste and the lactic acid and all that, help the body get rid of it and promote recovery. And whether you're an NFL player or whether you're a weekend warrior or you're going to chair yoga or something like that. I mean, it's for everyone, right? I mean, there's no one that PEMF won't benefit. So
Nope. If you have cells
exactly. Yeah.
and you move from point A to point B, which needs energy to do, it will benefit you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, we hear uh, from a lot of people who have pets at home, and all of a sudden you lay down and you're having a session and the pets are jumping on with you. And we get feedback from people about, my dog had a really sore hip and he was limping, and then he's been laying on the mat with me, and he's not limping anymore. Do you think that that's maybe from, of course it is. I mean, there's actually a different model of system, which we call the iMRS fauna, that is designed for large animals. So we have lots of people using it with horses and things like that. But whether it's a horse or a person or a cat or a dog, doesn't, it's all cells, right?
Yeah.
So, as far as various other biomimicking
Yeah.
processes, you got like HBOT. Are you familiar with, or have you done any like hyperbaric oxygen therapy?
I have.
Yeah, yeah. And what are your thoughts on that?
Um, oh, this could go down a rabbit hole. Uh, I'm not a fan of hyperbaric chambers or altitude rooms, and I'll tell you why. The research shows that you should train at sea level and sleep at altitude in order to get a good return on your investment, if you will.
Right.
We as human beings are already so oxygen saturated that being more oxygen saturated to me doesn't tell me or my lungs that I'm going to be able to hold on for that for longer periods of time.
Yeah.
Now, hypoxic and hyperoxic training, very different. I do believe that if we can change breathing patterns and we can reduce the amount of oxygen in and increase the O2 out, I think our nitric oxide production skyrockets. And I also think that oxidative stress levels go down because the majority of us, if we're good and healthy, let's put it at that. If we're considered to be a healthy individual, we should be at what do you want to say, 88, 89% or greater. I mean, I'm usually at 97, 98% of oxygen saturation.
Yeah, I think, yeah, majority of people I think are over 90 at least.
Right. So
Yeah.
So to try and get your body more adapt to more oxygen, to me doesn't make sense. To me, it makes sense to train your body to create more nitric oxide, decrease the carbon dioxide that you have, so that the what oxygen you do have can push through the system faster and more efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah. And so again, it kind of goes back to you're temporarily creating a more oxygen rich environment, but as soon as you leave that environment, then everything goes back to what it was before.
Yeah.
Whereas with something like PEMF, where the benefits are shown to, and when I say benefits, I mean the actual physiological processes or cell functions that are activated during a session on average are shown to last for 6 to 8 hours. And that's going by third-party research. But, that's the period of time when your body is more efficiently utilizing the oxygen that's already there. So, I think that's probably a lot more impactful than
Yes,
something like just temporarily improving the amount of oxygen in the environment.
I 100% agree. And again, it comes down to the permeability of the cell, right?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Can't accept the function or the apparatus that it's being given, whether it be the oxygen or the O2 or the CO2 or the nitric, whatever it is. If it doesn't have the ability to absorb and accept,
Yep.
then there's no point of it.
Yep.
So the
Exactly.
PEMF is really helping soften the cell and open it up so that what comes next you can provide.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And we see that often. There's some great images of before and after on the iMRS Prime, looking at cells that are, everything is just packed together. There's very little surface available for those cells to absorb anything. And then afterwards, after a short session on the iMRS Prime, all of a sudden everything has come apart, and it's energizing those cells. It's like, becomes like pushing two magnets together of the same polarity. They push each other apart, and that's how it's improving blood flow and the cardiovascular system, by helping those cells repel each other rather than
Yeah.
just getting stuck together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great way to, there's three pieces to the day, the way that I look at the day, right? There's how do we prepare, how do we perform, or how do we prime? I'm sorry. How do we get ready for what we're going to do? Then there's the doing aspect. And then there's the preparation for recovery to get quality sleep. And the iMRS has shown time and time again for myself and other athletes, I should say, and athletes, because I'm actually not an athlete anymore. There are great functions based upon what you said before, the organ clock. It
Yeah.
takes the guessing game out of it for us, right? It helps give us a trail map dependent upon which one of those three buckets that we're in for our day, whether it's the early morning activation, or hey, I'm getting ready to go to a big time competition, or man, I just need to reset from the day and get ready to go to sleep. Those functions are all covered.
Yeah.
And what you do, or what I'm trying to do, or what I'm trying to provide for athletes is no different than every other person. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And it's automated.
And it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one of the great things about this particular system. I know there are other PEMF systems out there that might have a vast frequency range, but how does one know which frequency to pick to do what? And this, with the iMRS Prime, it really just takes the guessing work out of it. And you haven't used the Hexagon Sense, which is the biofeedback component to it. But if you're using the Hexagon Sense, it additionally automates the intensity aspect. So what that does, it's a finger sensor an individual wears, and measures their HRV, heart rate, SpO2, so you get the oxygen saturation levels there as well. And you will actually see it all in real time. And what it does is it will adjust the intensity of the program and then wait for the individual's body to respond. And it's using HRV to determine this. And it will continuously adjust the intensity up and down to the individual in real time. And you'll see, you actually see the breathing rate on there as well. So
Really?
it's very cool, and it's not diagnostic so much as, well, your SpO2 is 92%. That means this. It's going to be unique to the individual, just like PEMF is, right? And
Yeah.
health in general.
Yeah. So it's more of like a measuring stick to kind of see what your readiness is at in that moment, or where you're at along your process.
Yeah, exactly. In that moment, like you say, because if you use it, before a workout or post game or something like that, it's going to be much different, right? And everybody's baseline is slightly different as well.
Absolutely.
Your HRV might be at 100 all the time, whereas someone else's normal might be 50 or 60. It's
Right.
it's totally dependent on the individual.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, if we've got something else for you another toy for you to start playing with there with your iMRS Prime.
That sounds pretty cool. That's I'm a big believer in HRV and body temperature being predictors of whether it be disease, sickness. Just because for myself, in my experience, I've had an Aura ring for years and years, for 5 or 6 years before they became what they are now. And it's always been the HRV and body temp that have been predictors for me when I start to feel under the weather.
Yep.
Um, now I can't tell you the last time I felt under the weather since I've had an iMRS. Just saying.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. We do get that a lot. And it's, it's again, it's not gonna prevent you from being exposed to anything,
Right.
but it just makes the body so much more efficient at dealing with, whether it's pathogens or viruses or bacteria or whatever it is, that you don't even notice a lot of times when you've been exposed to them.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you said efficient. And what I feel like as well, yes, it's allowing the body's processes to be more efficient, but it's also helping make you become more resilient,
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
right? Because that like we talked about the before and after of the blood images, right? Um, or you you can't have a calm mind and body if your cells are in flux.
Yeah.
Like they are teetering and just doing this, and you're sore like that's your body telling you that something's out of whack. And the PEMF just resets that so quick. And if you can lock into just a little bit of meditation while you're on it too, man,
Yep.
is it profound. It can really have an impact, not just biologically and physiologically, cellularly, but if you really if you really go into it with the purpose and intent and the understanding of what it can do, and you take that time within yourself there, it can have a profound impact on your
Yeah.
mental as well as your body.
Yeah. And you say getting into a meditative state there. Uh, you know, to bring up the brain, the hexagon brain, it's almost like an induced meditation with that, whether you're familiar with meditating or not. It just helps activate those healthy brainwave frequencies or the brainwave state, again, automated by the organ clock to the whatever particular time of day you use it. So,
Yeah,
and that's getting into that to talk about sleep, getting into that delta range, that 0 to 4 hertz for your brainwave activity, that probably a lot of people don't ever really make it to when they go to sleep, because it's whether it's too much light or TV or looking at a phone or something like that, or just being overstressed and overworked, like you say, living to work. And we just it's hard for some people to get to that state.
it is.
And using something like the brain paired with your session on the mat at the same time, then it just it takes you there without you having to do anything. you know it's induced.
Yeah, it is. It is. I like the hexagon wave. That's or the hexagon brain. I'm sorry. It's been a fun morning route part of the morning routine because
Yeah.
it will kickstart the gears. It
Yeah.
will start the gears so that it's almost like taking an adaptogen. It's like
Yeah.
it's like taking a nootropic day where you're just like, okay, everything's on, we're active, we're good to go. If this is firing, now this is all going to have a much better chance to move in
Yeah.
a
Yeah, I find often in the morning, if I'm having a session, I'll set it for, depending on how much time I've got, maybe 16 or 20 minutes in the morning. And often by the time I hit the 12-minute mark or around there, I'm peeling the brain off, the goggles off, and because I'm just ready to go.
exactly.
But
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I
yeah,
know.
yeah. And I guess it's similar at night too, except instead of peeling it off, I hit the 12-minute mark and I'm actually already asleep.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
need
Well, it's been awesome chatting with you. I'm glad we finally got together for this. Um,
I know, I am too. I am too.
Yeah, it was a long time coming. And happy to follow you guys this season and root for you. And we'll continue checking in and seeing how things are working out, and see if we can get you set up with an Hexagon Sense out there at some point here. I think you
Definitely.
guys would really enjoy that.
I think so too. I think if we would, and I certainly would.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Hey, I really appreciate your support. You've been a class act, man. You've been very helpful in explaining and being specific, dumbing things down for me a little bit when I need, but also just helping get this stuff implemented. Getting stuff like this implemented at an elite level is can be, it can be challenging, to say the least. Whether it be the woo woo stuff, whether it be um, new stuff. New stuff is can be scary sometimes,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you've done a phenomenal job of just kind of help providing me with the tools I need to be able to supply our staff and players with top-notch stuff, man.
yeah. Well, it's been a lot of fun working with you guys, and we're happy to I'm happy to have connected with you, and you know with like-minded individuals, right? It's all about resonance.
Resonance, baby.
Yeah,
Resonance. Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Reed. I hope you
yeah,
have a great rest of the evening and have a great weekend, man.
yeah. You too. We'll talk to you soon.